This is the Paul Drockton Show.
Good afternoon on the West Coast, good evening on the East, and it's now 12:07 Greenwich Mean Time, and you are listening to the Paul Drockton radio program, and a warm welcome to our guests, our listeners from all across the globe. And I am your host, Paul Drockton, and my website is Dead Man Musics, where you will find a new article each and every day. Okay, the other thing I wanted to talk about is, as you know, precious metals are starting to go back up again. Now, you're not going to see another dip. If you do, it might go down, half buck, maybe a buck between now and the election. But I'm telling you that we are 6 days away from this thing. And when it happens, already there are reports of fraud. As a matter of fact, in Nevada, there were individuals who said that Harry Reid, his name was checked on their ballot. And I don't know. I'm not going to say these people are telling the truth or they're lying or not, but I guarantee you that whoever they want to win this election will win the election. I mean, these are electronic voting machines, my friends. You can go in and you can do whatever you want. I remember in Utah, when these things first came out, how individuals weren't able to vote in Utah County. And what I'm talking about is they came to the polling places and they were turned away. And on top of that, the data was supposedly lost, and then it was found, and, they kept coming up with one excuse after another what was going on. Now, I'll tell you what was going on. They were trying to help the incumbent, and they did. I think he won that election. And it was crazy because the irregularities were just, to me, solid proof that these people have no respect whatsoever for democracy, which you already know. So don't be surprised if this election is riddled with accusations of fraud, which, by the way, might just be true. We're talking about a computer. We're talking about a disk. We're talking about or a hard drive. And anybody that is in a position of power could easily control the vote. I don't believe democracy or Republican government even exists anymore. I think these people decide who your candidates are. I think they decide who's going to win. I believe they decide what the agenda is, and that's just the way it is. They're not going to take risks by letting people actually choose their candidates. Doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. Now, one of the things I talked about with this election, and I brought this up before, is that the Tea Party was a creation of the establishment. And it was a creation of those individuals that have basically run the conspiracy forever. And the way it works is that when someone brings up their crimes, they organize a movement on the national level, and then they basically put their people in there to talk about the issues. They'll tell you 99% truth just to get your loyalty and support. Now look what happened with the Tea Party movement. First off, I understand it started out in one location, and then basically it was, I believe, designed as a tax protest movement. And people were doing the right things, the general population, but then we end up with them. And they always seem to either control the movement from the get-go, or they gain control over it through their money. They gain control over it through their media. And it's pretty interesting when you look at the whole thing, because you have individuals who work for them. And I'm going to tell you point blank, Glenn Beck, I got to tell you something. I have never trusted the guy. I don't care if he's Mormon, Catholic, whatever. There's people that think that just because someone goes to the same church as you, that automatically they earn your respect. And that's just not the way it works with me. I mean, look, I watch the hands, not the mouth. And the guy's making $30 million a year, and he worked for the Communist News Network, which was CNN, and then he basically also works for Clear Channel Communications. And if you read the pieces I've done on them, Clear Channel is owned by Bain Capital, who put together a partnership with another fund. And Bain Capital was founded by Mitt Romney. And he still owns company stock. He still owns stock in Bain Capital. And don't you just find it interesting that all these big personalities work for Clear Channel? You've got Rush Limbaugh, you've got Glenn Beck. He gets 1/3 of his income, I understand, from Clear Channel. Rush Limbaugh gets, I believe, almost all of his income, except for endorsements from Clear Channel. I mean, you've got this mega monopoly that was created back in the 80s. Back then, I think you were only allowed to own 30 radio stations. And then Colin Powell's son was appointed as the FCC chairman, and that law changed. And Clear Channel owns, I don't even know how many stations it is. I'm not even going to guess. But they've got all these personalities on there, and it just seems like they appear at the right time. I mean, go back and look at what happened with the last time you had a Republican Congress under Newt Gingrich. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I was very active in politics at that time. I met Newt Gingrich. I met other individuals and helped elect a Republican congressman, played a major role in him winning. And I want to tell you this. Rush Limbaugh came out of nowhere to become the majority maker. We're going to talk more about this when we come back. We'll be right back.
When it comes to silver and gold investing, you have to go with somebody you trust, somebody who understands financial planning, economics, and history. In the late 1990s, Paul Drockton predicted that gold and silver would be the #1 growth investment opportunity of the future, and he was right on the mark. Paul began helping his clients and friends make the conversion, and instead of losing money, they have all realized returns as high as 300%. Paul Drockton is now forecasting massive returns on gold and silver bullion in the coming months. Paul's foresight and vision were 20/20, and his track record is perfect. You can email him at pdrockton@aol.com. That's Drockton, Drockton, and let Paul help you. There is still time, so email Paul for a completely free, no-strings consultation at pdrockton@aol.com.